And in today's episode of I'll Take a Lobotomy, Please, we have a self-castrated man who unironically calls himself Jessie Gender, explaining how trans women are not actually biological males. Let's see if it makes any sense. Take it away, Jessie.
With this topic of, are trans women biologically male? I mean, consistently and constantly, we see trans women in news articles and in public discussion being described and talked about as being biologically male.
To compete against two biological males.
People get confused when trans people push back on being referred to as biologically this or biologically that. No, I do. I don't like being referred to as biologically male. That biology is also socially constructed. This video is just meant to help people start to poke at that idea, to have an understanding of how this idea of biologically male trans women is an oversimplified understanding of in science. That oversimplification gets weaponized. Biologically male. What are we saying in science when we say someone is a boy or a girl? In science, penises. And with XX chromosomes, vaginas. Biologically male. Trans people, biologically male. Vaginas. God, vagina is a fun word to say. I wish we were allowed to say it more like everyday discourse without it being like prudish, but it's like vagina. It's just a fun word, just on its own, regardless of context. Vagina. It's just a vagina. It's just a vagina. It's just a vagina. Vagina. It's just a
vagina. It's just a fun word.
An oversimplified understanding of kind of an assumption made between here and here. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a little bit, but let's biologically male. Vaginas. For example, that women are, they'll like pink, that they'll like dolls, they can be more emotional in science, and trans people. Some people born with penis and seen as boys maybe will have a higher pitched voice, like pink, we call intersex. And then, number two, biology is much more complicated than we're taught. Trans people in science, and I like wearing dresses. While this basic understanding of biology and chromosomes is helpful, because it's actually a lot more complicated than it would appear. Number three, despite this, society still tends to use simplified science in order to group people. As I said with chromosomes, we tend to think of XX and XY, but actually, as many of us sometimes know, there are people that we would call intersex. Vaginas. No trans person is ignorant of biology in science, and biologically male, and kind of makes a lot more presumptions than just the genital bit, or intersex. Argued that there are behaviors that are linked to biology and physical characteristics, like for example, people in the physical characteristic pile have more testosterone if they have. Boys will like blue, like action figures, and be more stoic. Closed off, less emotional. But they only knew that they had XXX chromosomes because they had gotten genetic testing for some reason or another. Or we tend to determine groups by what we emphasize. XX or XY chromosomes, that they're biologically something. Is that actually true? Do we actually know that? Just that I was born with testicles, I even had a penis, but I also like dolls, for example. We can blow this out with. What determines whether you get to be a Gryffindor or a Ravenclaw? I liked wearing dresses. And people will place different emphasis on different things at different times. One, at a certain moment. You know, not every woman will have ovaries, for example, or estrogen, or like dolls, but they will have vagina, breast, or preponderance of these things. Vaginas. Especially when we talk about biology, because it can be used to mask discrimination and bigotry. I'm not judging you if you do say that trans women are biologically male. Vaginas. I think there is a larger conversation to be had, but it needs to be an open and honest one. Biologically male. Honest with ourselves and with others. I like wearing dresses. Don't have that open and honest conversation. People can take those assumptions, what that means, and what you're thinking about when you're saying that. This isn't a judgment. It's meant to say those lack of challenging are being used to hide other more discriminatory factors. The conversation, not only between us, but within you as well. At what point you point out ourselves and our ways of thinking about the world, on this determining value of someone, because often it's rather irrelevant. And it's rather relevant, and can use more discriminatory purpose. Someone is using biology as the strongest, given that biology is actually much more complicated than we typically allow. Vaginas. It's always important to ask why and for what purpose someone is using biology as the strongest determining value of someone's power by leveraging bigotry called intersex. And all of that are the important things that I want you to take away from this video.
And there you have it, folks. Jessie Gender on why trans women are not
biologically male.
See you later.